So Jon Stewart is back doing his thing. This is, I believe, the second monologue he did on Israel and Gaza. And yet again, he ain't holding back. You can actually tell that he's motivated by this. He's interested in it because, again, in a very short time frame, he did 2 segments on it, which usually if you're doing a comedy show and you just did a segment on something recently, you wouldn't do it. But obviously it's the biggest thing happening in the world right now, so he's all over it. And he is going to absolutely incinerate the extreme hypocrisy of the U.S. virtue signaling about human rights and international law and the liberal world order. He's just going to light it on fire and expose the breakdown between, hey, here's what you say when Russia does it, and then here's what you say when Israel does it. So let's watch and we'll break it down.
The other big milestone from the eclipse is, as Ronnie mentioned, the war in Gaza is now 6 months old. I think time for a wellness check. But as the war has grinded on, justice is beginning to seem more like cruelty. But not to worry. America, the shining city on a hill, is on the case with our universal values.
In the great battle for freedom between a rules-based order and one governed by brute force. In this battle, we need to be clear-eyed.
And just to clarify, we are the freedom folks. We're the rules people. We're not the brute force ones. I think we all know who the brute force ones are. In this case, Vladimir. And know that America will call you out when you violate the basic tenets of humanity.
Weaponizing food, using it as a tool, as a weapon in its war against Ukraine, it's unconscionable. Should not happen.
It's unconscionable. Weaponizing food in Ukraine is not kosher, nor halal. Sorry if I'm both sidesing this. Speaking of which, there is a literal famine in Gaza caused by the war. I assume America will also consider this unconscionable.
Absolutely, we're concerned about that. No question about it.
Well, you can't spell unconscionable without concern, or at least part of it, the C-O-N part. You can reuse the C-O. You get the point. How about the free press? Ordinarily, we are strongly in favor of free press.
We also condemn the Russian government's continued targeting and repression of journalists.
You hear that, Russia? We condemn, in no uncertain terms, any repression of a free press. I think you all know what's coming next. More journalists have been killed in Gaza in 6 months than anywhere else in the world, and a new Israeli law says they can ban media outlets they consider a threat.
So as it relates to Al Jazeera specifically, we've seen the reports. If it is true, a move like this is concerning.
Oh, we're concerned again.
Do you guys understand what's happening here? We see this in the media a lot too. Like when you look at the crimes of Hamas, there's very intentional, emotional, provocative, harsh, and biting language, right? It's like the terror attack with atrocities and massacres and slaughters. And by the way, it's all totally fair when talking about attacks against civilians, no doubt about it. But then when it's Israel doing terror attacks and slaughters and massacres and all that, it's passive voice. Sometimes they don't even say who the perpetrator is. It'll say like, Gazan house explodes, leaving 4 dead. It's like, it exploded? What, was there a gas leak? So it like, the propaganda is subtle, and it's in the framing and the language in many instances. And here, look, maybe at this point we go as far as say, this isn't even subtle. When it's Israel, well, if true, well, then that is concerning. But when they're talking about Russia doing some censorship and banning, it's, we condemn in all possible terms the evil authoritarian crackdown. When it's Israel, if true, it's concerning. It's just, it's all so weaselly. And I'm sorry, but it's true. It exposes us as the joke that we are. That we never believed any of this shit. It's all convenient for, like, when it's our ally, you get a pass. When it's our enemy, you're the worst thing ever, and you're nefarious, and this defines you.
And by the way, is it true? Like, it feels like you could probably just call someone and be like, is this true? And if they're like, yeah, it's true, you could be like, that's concerning. Not condemning, but concerning. Well, you know what? Perhaps these are just peripheral issues. What about the bedrock rule of international law? No taking land by force. When Russia does it, we're pretty clear.
The entire world has a stake in making sure that no nation, no aggressor, is allowed to take a neighbor's territory by force. The American people will never waver on our commitment to those values.
See, this is where Israel's actions get interesting. Because you might say Israel's war is different than Ukraine's. Israel's responding to an attack and a hostage crisis. But in the midst of that, they pulled a little something in the West Bank on March 22nd that might be notable.
As the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken made his latest visit to Israel, the Israeli government announced that it was declaring state land, nearly 2,000 acres of land, in the occupied West Bank.
This latest Israeli appropriation is the largest land transfer since the Oslo Accords were signed in 1993.
1993, and that's not even Gaza, that's the West Bank. So you can't say it has anything to do with defending yourself against Hamas. Let's see if America upholds its rule against taking land.
I haven't seen the specifics of this, but anyone taking steps that makes things more difficult, more challenging this time, it's something that we have a problem.
You don't know about it. They did it the day you visited.
I can't. I can't. I can't deal with it, man. Do you guys understand? There are still people out there who will cling to the fucking fairy tale notion that all Israel is still doing at this late date is a highfalutin hunt for Hamas. We're just going after the bad guys, bro. There are still people who say that and believe that. And they have to literally just not engage with any inconvenient facts like this one right here. Like, okay, well then why is it that now in the West Bank, they're cracking down massively, stealing land, killing Palestinians? You get horrific stories out of there all the time. They unleashed in the West Bank, even though, the fighting is in Gaza. So how is that? How is there is no Hamas there? There is no even potential theoretical, like, this is defensive in nature. By the same token, we covered it the other day. There's now countless detailed stories on the ground of IDF soldiers looting, stealing, taking, like, necklaces, whatever, like, valuable remains were in the houses around the Al-Shifa medical complex. How is that in any way, shape, or form? We're taking it to Hamas by stealing this gold necklace. Like, I don't know if anybody at this late date can even actually believe that goofy idea now. This is purposeful. This is intentional. This is with bad intent. The mindset is collective punishment. They're all guilty. From a baby to a grandma, shopkeep owner, doctor, they're all guilty. That's the mindset. And again, you hear the passive language. But it's very clear. Israel's like, let's do another massive violation of international law. Well, if it's real, then that would, I guess, be concerning, bro. Does this sound like a government that's going to get serious, cut off money, cut off weapons, condemn at the UN, sanction, take any sort of proactive steps to stop the crimes? Laughable.
Why do we tiptoe around on eggshells? They slap America in the face, and our response is, well, if anyone slapped us in the face, it'd be concerning, that's for sure. I mean, raising a hand to a delicate body part of the face. If true, the verbal gymnastics that the American government must undertake so as not to offend the delicate sensibilities of a country we provide most of the weapons for is, Every time America tells the world that there's something we won't allow, Israel seems to say, challenge accepted. Are they willfully trying to provoke us? Or perhaps they're just reading our principles from right to left. It's upset. It's over. It's really, to be honest, it's kind of a bar mitzvah joke, but over 30,000 have died in Gaza since the war started. Some of them Hamas soldiers, 13,000 of them children. Our response.
Since the early hours, we've been urging our Israeli counterparts to act with as much precision as they can in their targeting. Our constant efforts to urge the Israelis to be as precise and careful as possible. We can still continue to urge Israel to be more careful and more precise. The need for the Israeli Defense Forces to act with precision. We continue to work with the Israelis to make sure that they are as precise as they can be.
Yeah, by the 714th time that you tell them, you guys should probably kill fewer civilians, I'm sure they're going to listen. Not 713, by the 714th time. Just to refresh your memory, 41,496 Palestinians are dead. Of them, 37,676 are civilians. This is according to Euromed Monitor. 15,370 children, 9,671 women. Again, this isn't a, oops, did I do that? That's not what this is. This is, we don't care, kill everything that moves. That's what that is.
See, they're not listening. Have you tried synonyms for precision?
We continue to stress to our Israeli counterparts that they be as discriminate and careful in their targeting as possible, be as cautious and deliberate and as careful as they can to be more careful and more deliberate, be very deliberate in the most discreet, deliberate, careful, cautious way possible.
Do you want to talk about being deliberate? I'm going to ask you guys this question, okay? How many completely destroyed homes do you think there are? This is homework if you've been watching our Israel segments, because we cover this every time. How many completely destroyed homes are there in Gaza, and how many partially destroyed homes are there in Gaza? Just think of a number before I give you the answer. Just think of a number. Completely destroyed homes is 122,500. Partially destroyed homes, which I don't know if you guys know this, you still can't live in them. Still, if the living room is gone, but the kitchen's still there, kind of hard to live there. Partially destroyed home, 269,700. Of the 2.3 million people in Gaza, 2 million are homeless. On purpose. And the response is, you should be more deliberate. You should be more deliberate and specific.
That they be as discriminate and careful in their targeting.
They are being deliberate and specific. That's the thing nobody wants to grapple with, right? Like, this is on purpose. This is deliberate. This is specific.
Be as cautious and deliberate and as careful as they can to be more careful and more deliberate. Be very deliberate in the most discreet, deliberate, careful, cautious way possible. The utmost care.
A special burden to be mindful.
To be mindful? What is this, hot yoga? We just, we'd seen the bombing, and we are urging Netanyahu to be present. What the are we doing here? The subtext of all this is America knows this is wrong, but it apparently doesn't seem to have the courage to say it in a straightforward manner. America and Israel both know that you cannot bomb your way into safety. We learned that lesson in Iraq and Afghanistan. They learned it in southern Lebanon. They laid siege there, occupied the southern area for 20 years. All it did was birth and strengthen Hezbollah. And they're about to do it all over again, and we are letting them. Real friends take the keys, because friends don't let friends bomb that much. And after this recent week, with so much horror, perhaps America finally finds the need for a new approach with Israel, with more justice and less cruelty.
The U.S. and Israel are closing in on what would be their largest weapons deal since the war in Gaza began.
Well, I don't know about you, but if that's true, I find it concerning.
Man, I mean, thank God he's back on TV. It's all so bleak. It's all so bleak. I think they know, too, that this is going to strengthen Hamas. I mean, they're doing an ethnic cleansing. They're doing a genocide. They're wiping them out. They're trying to, push them into the desert, set up a tent city. Like, that's what they're doing. But, man, they increased recruitment for Hamas probably to triple or quadruple what it was. And there's going to be some people whose entire life now is hell-bent on retribution. And so just expect the fucking cafe bombings and car bombings and all sorts of terror attacks, because when you wipe out somebody's entire family, they don't sit there and take it kindly, right? So the point is the ethnic cleansing. The point is the genocide. The point is the resettling of Gaza. We keep saying they need to be discriminate and cautious. They are being discriminate and cautious. This is what they want to do. And our response is to give them more money and give them more weapons, and then turn around and lecture the rest of the world about how evil Russia is. You wonder why it rings hollow. You wonder why we're slowly fading and we're no longer going to be the world's sole superpower. We made that bed. That's clear. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.